Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well today, my amazing hacker friends. Today, I have another amazing hacker friend with me, Mr. John Brett. How are you doing?
Very, very good. Thanks for having me back on. It's been a little while.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. So my name is John Brett. Some folks might know me on Twitter as jbizzle703, and you might follow me on YouTube. I have a channel called Cyberinsight. So I am a network / cybersecurity architect. I actually started in IT probably, it's been almost 20 years now. I started off in the US Air Force doing some long haul telecommunications. And then after doing that, switched over, got out of the military and went into consulting work where I became a network engineer and a senior network engineer. Then that kind of transitioned over into cybersecurity engineering, and then into the role that I'm in now, which is more of a network / cybersecurity architect. And we were kind of talking about this off stream, but I have my own company. So I'm always, out looking for different clients and stuff like that to do different types of work, to try to either build out different types of security services or network services in a secure manner and try and provide whatever value I can to my clients.
And if people wanted to hire you, where could they find you?
So my website is jbcsec.com. And so there's some contact information there. And you can kind of see some of the different services that my company offers.
That's awesome. I'll put that link in the description as well. Thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
And I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this as well, because what I wanted to ask you is I've been noticing that a lot of certificates have been training people to hack. A lot of things focus on hacking out there.
Sure.
What I teach my pen testers is that they focus on the client first, on documentation, on doing proper test plans, on test reports. What's your opinion on that?
I think that there's definitely there's two sides to that coin, right? I mean, there's obviously the technical skills that you need to have, but if you aren't scoping engagements in a way that's going to be providing value to your customers, then it's not really going to be worth it too much, right? I mean, one of the things that we see people complain about a lot, both from an offensive side and a defensive side, is kind of these companies that will say that they're doing a penetration test, but really they're just doing a Nessus scan, just pointing it towards something, and then just giving the out of the box Nessus report and being like, hey, there's your vulnerability report, and it's not scoped in any way. There's no real context. There's no digging deeper to kind of understand what the mission or objectives of the client is, and understanding what the critical parts of data and infrastructure is that they really need to be protecting. So that's not really providing too much of a great service. And then kind of on the other side, on the defensive side, you see a lot of people complain about managed security service providers who, will say that they do all this great stuff, but then once people go and actually sign up, there isn't a lot of meat left on that bone as far as the actual value that's being provided to an organization. So I think it's a little bit of both, because you definitely want to be technically proficient. You definitely want to understand the basics, but to your point, communication is a big thing. Critical thinking is a big thing. Knowing how to research things is also another big thing. So as long as you have kind of the fundamentals of your skill set kind of, built up really well, as long as you know how to research things, once you identify and enumerate things, then you're able to go and maybe find some other avenues that other people have already documented as being ways for you to test out different things for your client.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that. What my biggest gripe with that is that a lot of the learning resources that you find out there are focused on the technical aspect, which is really good. Don't get me wrong. I really, that's definitely necessary. And I just think there's not enough resources focusing on those aspects of the communication with the client, for example.
For
Like,
sure.
how do you communicate with a client? That's something that is some very underwritten and
Mhm.
not.
I think that, and I completely agree with you. I think that the challenge in that kind of lies in how do you verify that from a testing capability, right? So if we're talking about a course, it's easy or easier to identify like, hey, this whole section is going to be on client engagement, and we're going to explain the ways that you do that, the different types of documentation that you want to have, different ways that you tailor and scope things. When it comes to certifications, unless it's something maybe like, I don't know, maybe more in line with like the OSCP or something like that, where there is actually like the report writing component of that, more of the lower level, or I should say entry level certs that are dealing with offensive security or even defensive security. I don't know how you automate verification of that type of stuff into a practical exam, right? It seems to be a little bit more subjective as far as like grading that type of thing, short of we're going to mention that you should be aware of these things, but not necessarily a really thorough way of being able to validate or test those. So that's definitely a huge gap when it comes to those types of exams, and probably doing a bit of a disservice to folks who are trying to get into the career field and kind of get some of those more entry-level certifications.
Definitely agree with you on that. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be graded, but maybe this is a controversial opinion, and it probably is, but I'm just going to throw it out there. For the price of OSCP, they should give me a back rub while I do the exam.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Like the first, what I expect. Sorry.
Oh, no. So I've never taken the OSCP. Most of the stuff that I have is more on most of the certification I have is more on the defensive side and networking and maybe some cloud stuff. But how much is the OSCP going for nowadays? I assume it's probably pretty expensive.
I think it's 4K, but I'm gonna look it up just so I don't make any mistakes. OSCP price. So you have the Band 200, that's the new OSCP course.
Okay.
And then you can register for that. The individual course is 1,499 euros. So it's not 4K, it's 1.5K. It's not that expensive, but still, for that, I think they could put in at least 15 minutes of client engagement in the beginning.
Sure.
Okay, you get your scope, make 15 minutes of time to say, hey, this is what you're gonna hack, talk to the person. And even if you don't do that, even if you just put in a little bit of like just something about it in your courses, like OSC, that would be very useful for me because it's not in the syllabus.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so especially if it is maybe kind of laying out some different avenues that the person who's doing the test could take, and then there being some type of additional grading factor on how those align kind of with what the overall desire or scope of the client actually is. So that might be a way where they could kind of tie something like that in.
And definitely, yeah, totally agree with you on that. But anyway, of course, that is what we are for as well. We train the people that we take in. At least that's what I do. I train them a little bit about how I would approach my client, and I don't let them approach the client either. That's my job, is to do that. That's my risk as well as a company owner. And that's one thing I wanted to ask you as well. Of course, people see the money coming in, but do you see any risks? Do you have anything to say about that?
As far as being a business owner?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the challenge with that, and this is always kind of one of the trade-offs when looking, especially just in tech in general, right? Not even any specific specialization, is there's a lot of safety, or I shouldn't say a lot, but there's more safety and comfort in in the US, we call it W-2, full-time employed position with a company or organization, versus if you are trying to be a contractor on your own or have your own company, there's not as much of a safety net there. Now, the flip side of that is that the money is much more lucrative on that side versus being, an employee to a company. But really, that's kind of a risk process that everybody needs to go through themselves, right? And everybody has a different risk tolerance for that. Some folks might not have any desire to deal with all the other administrative stuff that comes with owning your own company, whether it is, all of the different legal paperwork that you have, all the different tax paperwork that you have, if you're going to have HR policies, if you're going to have, different types of benefits and things like that, and the overhead that comes along with those. And then also you were kind of talking about additional risks, the continually looking for other opportunities and doing business development. Not everyone has the mindset to go out and be an entrepreneur in that way, because it's a lot of extra work, and there is a lot of extra risk that comes along with that. So, as individuals getting into tech, that's something that kind of needs to be weighed to see if you actually want to take on all that other responsibility and tasks. And if you think that will end up, being the benefit will outweigh the risk. For me personally, having spent, the first, I don't know, 13 or 14 years of my career working for somebody else, I kind of just got to the point where I was like, hey, I feel technically confident in my skills. I feel like I can communicate well. I feel like I can work with other people across different companies and different organizations. So I would like to, go out and spin up my own company and try my hand at that. The thing that kind of always stuck in the back of my mind was, I don't have a problem working really hard and working a lot of hours, but I would much rather do that if I was doing it for myself and my own company versus doing it for somebody else's company. There's a lot of lessons that come along with that, with you doing it for somebody else's company, and all of us at some point probably have had to go ahead and do that. But I think at some point, some people kind of reach that point where it's like the benefit versus reward doesn't quite work out as well if you continue to do that. And then in that case, a lot of people decide that they want to go and be entrepreneurs.
Definitely agree. If you want an easy job, if you want 8 hours of work, go do a 9 to 5.
Exactly.
If you're in for an adventure, go start a company. And that's definitely true. So let's spill the beans. Do you have any juicy hacker stories that you'd like to share?
Oh, juicy hacker stories. Honestly, all of my good ones are under NDAs.
That's so annoying.
I'm sorry, man. Like I wish I had something
no, it's okay.
that I could share, but no, all of the ones that actually are like pretty good. And thankfully I haven't had too many, especially because I've been on the IT side and the defensive side of things, which would mean that was probably something bad happening. The few ones that I have, yeah, I can't really go into those. But on the offensive side of stuff and the stuff that you do, I mean, I'm sure that you run into crazy stuff as far as things that people just have completely wide open out in the wild, stuff that you probably run into, things that you're like, I never thought that I would see that, and then you end up seeing it.
Yeah, like the thing is, the way I do business, I go to client or I go to local businesses, and I ask them, can I test for a few hours for free? And I offer this to anybody out there. I will test you for 2 hours. Give me 2 hours on your website. That's all I ask, a short introduction. And then I am sure that I can find at least a critical in those 2 hours in most websites.
Mm,
I'll show you why you need me. That's kind of my
right.
attitude. Um, that's how I stand into hacking.
And that works out pretty well. Does that normally end up bringing in a decent amount of business that way?
I started out that way to get a few customers on my resume. So
Hmm.
I at least had something to show off of. And then I started, well, basically every other pen test after that came from followers.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it was kind of my strategy from the beginning as well, to be honest. But
Yeah.
everybody sees that you have a company now, like you say, but
Yep.
nobody sees those 3 years of work that you've put in for free, not getting any extra, working 2 jobs.
Yep. So
People,
that's actually very similar to what I did. So I started my company back in 2016, and for about a year and a half, all of the work I did was free. And it was more so, well, and I say this, it was all free because I had a 9 to 5 and I made good money at the 9 to 5. And what I wanted to do was just kind of get my business processes in place and kind of get comfortable sitting in the position of owning a business. And so kind of similar. I mean, so in your case, I don't know if the people that you were doing that for free you already had relationships with or not. But in my case, that's kind of what I did. Was I used my network to be like, hey, I'm have these cybersecurity services that I'm offering. I'll come and do this stuff for free for you. And it's really more so about just testing out my tools, testing out documentation, and also just getting all of the administrative stuff in place that you need with a business, right? Like there's so much stuff that people just might not think about, just from like a tax perspective and an accounting perspective, and making sure that you have the right types of, bank accounts, having, a website and contact form that works, like all this stuff that it's so much easier to take care of all that stuff when you aren't under the pressure of needing to have it right that moment. So for me, it was almost like going to university, right? But university from starting and running a business.
yeah, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret.
Yeah.
I fucking hate doing taxes.
Yeah. No one likes doing taxes, man. Nobody does.
Jesus, man, I am glad I have an accountant. I could just send him my paperwork and I'm like, do it for me. Thank you very much. And
Yep, exactly. Hmm.
definitely, but still, you have to keep track of the invoices. You have to
Oh,
go
and
incoming,
yep,
outgoing every month. I
yep.
just,
In invoices and all of that stuff, which, it's there's two sides to that. There's the side of, at least for me, is kind of interesting to learn those things because I never had to do it before. But then you get to the point where once you figure it out and you understand it, then you're like, this really sucks a decent amount of time. And then you're like, I don't really want to deal with this.
yeah, it's like it's having to scan all of the. I have a stack of invoices laying in front of me that I still have to scan in to get to my accountant. And it's like
Hmm.
scanning is not a difficult task, but it's a boring task and it takes so
Yes,
long. And
most
yeah,
definitely.
totally
Uh,
agree. Can you, like one of the viewers asked, can you tell us a little bit about real job tasks and service requests and how you proceed from start to end?
sure. I mean, so I think their question was coming more from like a troubleshooting perspective. And I can talk about what that's like, just because I have enough experience with that in tech. And then I could also talk about like realistically a similar workflow, but more so from a project perspective, which is really like the type of stuff that I would do now. Um, so I guess I'll go with that and answer it from like what I'm currently doing now. So normally we'd have some type of requirements that are either pushed by the client to you. Maybe they mention something, it could be formally or informally, or it could be something where you identify some type of need and then present them with an idea. And this kind of actually ties back into what you were talking about documentation. And different types of written communications and things like that. I mean, even though it's not necessarily pen test, still being able to identify information and scope and needs and put it into some type of format where you can easily explain to someone who might not necessarily be technical what an issue is or what the concern is, why something needs to be done to remedy it, and provide normally a few different solutions and then a recommendation for the particular solution that you think would best, fit within the scope of a few different things, fit within the scope of the mission objectives of the organization, fit within the scope of the technology stack that they have within the organization, fit within budget scopes, fit within security scopes. So kind of taking all of that stuff together and presenting something that your client could then, easily understand, and then they're kind of at a decision point. And so then if at that point they think that that is a good idea, then you kind of move into maybe some initial preliminary design type of phase with that, would be what I would do. And then depending upon how new the solution or technology is, there might be some prototyping that would need to happen. If that doesn't need to happen and it's more something that's a little bit more cut and dry, normally I would move on to submitting some type of ticket into a change management process, which hopefully whatever company or organization you work for would have that, right? So then within the change management structure and process, you'd be documenting at a high level initially what this new design or changes is that you want to implement. And then depending upon what the actual process is in that organization, you might be able to do some, again, it's not prototyping at that point, it's a little bit more developed than that, but some type of test and integration stuff in a test environment within the organization, verify that things work at that point. And as long as you continue to hit these different gates that are in a change management process, you can kind of move along. With the different outputs from all these different things that you're doing. So both you have kind of a technological solution perspective, you have a documentation perspective, you probably have some type of security perspective, whether that's, some types of vulnerability scans or code scans or hardening scans. And you're kind of, building all of these different things that all continue to follow this solution through the process up to the point where it gets integrated into an operational environment. There's some type of training and handoff with the operation folks who will end up taking control of that at that point. And then it kind of just goes into, continual operations and continual service improvement until it gets to the point where whatever that particular solution or technology is outdated, needs to be updated, no longer serves a purpose towards the objectives of the organization, and then it gets sunset somehow, following whatever the practices are for the change management in that particular organization.
Now, I just pulled up John's website for you guys, just so you can see what his areas of expertise are and where he's talking from what standpoint. And I really like to see that viewpoint as well, because of course, from my viewpoint, all I see is attack.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, my start to end process is very simple. I meet a client, we sign an NDA, we go over a test plan together where I go over their complete assets. I look over what I want to do. And then we do enumeration, we try to find vulnerabilities, we try to exploit them, and we report on them. Then we debrief our client on the situation of their security in total, and that's it. That's literally the phases of a pen test. You can look it up. It's very easy for us, at least from my standpoint. The other standpoint I have is we have a different revenue stream as well, where we are trying to train QA companies into pen testing companies. And that standpoint is we literally go into a company, we'd look at their QAs, we look at how far they are, what they've trained already. And with the company together, we try to look at a solution of what best for them, what kind of training they need, and sometimes even guidance with starting up the pen testing.
So I have a question based off of your experience and what you see from folks and organizations. How bad is asset management? So like the first step that you were talking about is going in and getting a scope for what they want to do. And then they provide back, whatever assets that they assume are within scope for the work that you're going to do. Do you run into a lot of situations where people really don't have a handle on the assets that are in their organization?
To be honest, like I find, I'm not going to say every single one, but I do find that a lot of organizations that we test, at least as a QA engineer from my past, didn't have a very good asset management system. Some didn't even have a good release versioning system. So they would just release tickets into production and wouldn't even be versioned. So let alone managing their assets properly, which creates a lot of shadow APIs. And for you who don't know, shadow API is basically an API that the company doesn't even know about anymore, that they might have forgotten or that has been created, but nobody has documented. And those are very dangerous because unmanaged APIs often lead to vulnerabilities. It's those kinds of things that our company tries to do differently. We try to do the pen tests that no other company wants to do, that are very out there, that are very unique, like blockchain pen tests, for example. It's very interesting because the blockchain is basically just a ledger. You can insert any other tech factor in there if you want. And on the other end of that blockchain, of that ledger, is just another receiver, another programmed thing which you can hack. So that's definitely, it's an interesting avenue. And also, I think cloud pen testing is going to be very, very, very prevalent in the future.
But most definitely. So I'm actually really excited. So Black Hat is coming up in August, and I'm actually taking a 4-day class on blockchain security. So it's both, I believe, a offensive and defensive class. So I haven't had any experience doing any blockchain stuff. And so normally when I go to Black Hat, I like to pick something that is completely new to me, that I don't have any type of experience in. And so, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do this year. I think it'll be pretty fun. Should be pretty cool.
Oh, this looks very interesting. I think blockchain is going to be very prevalent in the future. And like, whether we like it or not, Web 3.0 is probably going to be a thing. It's already a thing, but right now what we still have is a lot of these decentralized things still have a centralized application. Like, because a lot of people don't know how to go to the blockchain to connect with decentralized applications. They still have to have some point of connection, and that is still very, like, the blockchain itself, we don't know a lot of vulnerabilities about it yet. We have some ideas now because there were some major hacks. But for when it comes to blockchain, there's always a end to it, and that there's chances that that's not programmed well. I don't know if you know this, but Ethereum, it's just literally an API kind of contract that you're programming. You can it's like a Swiss Army knife, and you can program your own thing about it. That's why so many things are built on the Ethereum blockchain.
I'm definitely looking forward to it because I don't have any background in it at all, and I think I kind of would like to be able to speak a little bit more intelligently about it. So I was like, hey, why not go take a class that's going to do, a deep dive into the APIs and the contracts and all that stuff. So
you should talk to John McCain about John. Sorry, I forgot his last name. I'll send his Twitter to you.
Okay, awesome.
he's very knowledgeable about this stuff, and he works a lot with NFTs as well.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, I'm sorry about that sidetrack.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
For the viewers who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about an NDA, please?
NDA, so a non-disclosure agreement, normally would be something that you're either going to sign if you are doing some type of business relationship with another organization, or if you're an employee of a company. A lot of times they'll have you sign that as well. And really the purpose of that is to protect the organization, the client, from having certain types of information get out into the wild that could be used against them for different purposes. So a lot of times, anyone who's doing any type of tech work or cybersecurity work will end up having to sign one of these, you know, and it will apply to different types of information, both maybe from like a technical perspective as far as like architecture and things that are kind of proprietary. And then also from the perspective of different types of data that you might end up seeing within an organization, whether that's PII or other types of confidential information that the organization might be housing.
And if you break an NDA, what happens?
Ooh, so I can't speak for everywhere, but different NDAs carry a lot of different penalties, some including a lot of jail time, depending on who the NDA is with, or very, very large fines, or the potential of being sued. So definitely not something that you really want to mess with if you like peace and quiet the way that I do.
I don't want to find out either, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't want to push those buttons.
Can you tell me what was your most interesting assignment that you can say anything about, or your most?
I mean, so I've had a few different ones. Early in my career, the most interesting stuff was when I was in the Air Force, I was doing network engineering for the networks that supported Air Force One. So that's like the airplanes that the US president and other, you know, important folks within the government fly on all over the world. So I got to work on that and go on the plane and stuff like that, which was pretty cool. In kind of my more recent work, interesting stuff, I would say, from a technology perspective, is more so building out different types of security services that are carrier grade. So like something that ISP would be able to use. So taking into account all the different testing and different types of things that go into building out systems like that, and then going through the approval processes, both of the organization you work for and the client that would end up using those. It really forces you, especially as an architect, to really have to dig into both the technical aspect of networking and systems engineering, and then also the InfoSec aspect of building out a secure system and having the right type of documentation and systems in place. And then I say InfoSec, and we can kind of go to cybersecurity because it's a little bit different than InfoSec in some ways. But putting in the right types of monitoring tools within an IT organization or environment to make sure that you have the proper logging and protections and visibility into what's happening within those particular environments and services. To me, all of that, because it's always changing. There's always new technology, there's always new threats, there's always new requirements. If you enjoy learning new things and research and stuff like that, then that kind of makes those things enjoyable and cool to me.
Awesome, thanks a lot. Now maybe a strange question because I don't
Sure.
speak Elfish, but some viewer asked if you would rather be 7 single quotes and 2 double quotes, or 5 single quotes and 7.
So whether I would rather be 7'11" or 5'1"? Is that what he said? Yeah.
7'2", or 5'7".
Ooh, I mean, was it 5'7"? Because 5'7" seemed like it wouldn't be that horrible. If if it was like under 5, I don't know. That would be short for me. That's a tough one. I
It's an
guess I would rather.
educate.
I guess I would
It
rather be
was
tall.
it
I
was
guess.
5'1", so it's
Yeah. No. I guess I would. I would rather be 7'1". I guess I would have to like get a really big van or something. It wouldn't be able to ride in normal cars. Be pretty tough, I guess.
so for my European viewers, and so everybody not American, basically, 7 feet and 1 inch, I guess that is
Hmm.
is
Yep.
215 centimeters, or 2.1 meters, and we got 5'1", which was, Jesus, 150, 1 meter and 50 centimeters. Okay. There we go. Jesus, we should go to unified units very soon.
Yeah. We just should go across the board.
Definitely.
That
Yeah.
way we don't have any issues with any space flights. Yeah.
Yes. That's an interesting story as well.
Yeah.
Damn, we should do this more often. I really am having a good time.
Yeah,
Really.
no, I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me on. And I gotta say, it's been awesome to see kind of like your channel's progression, and then also the progression of all the different learning content that you've been putting out. I mean, it really hasn't been that long, man. Like as far as like the growth and all of the great stuff that you put out, it's been awesome to see it in real time. Because like I said, like it's been what, maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah,
But
like about a year.
yeah, like it definitely doesn't. I don't know. It went by quick.
When I very first started was 3 years ago, but like
Okay.
we've been going to the moon since like a year ago. I started my own company, and that's
Hmm.
when I started doing the odd pen test here and there, like you say, free
Yep.
jobs here and there. And then it's just, right now it's insane that it went so fast, and we're at 20,000 YouTube subscribers. What the
Oh, that's awesome.
fuck?
Yeah, I'm about to hit 10K on mine. So I'm pretty excited about that. I mean, it's been, you know how it is, man. It's a grind in some ways. Like you try to be as consistent as you can. And I try to like hit a whole bunch of different, topic areas to keep things interesting. So, I'll do a whole bunch of cloud videos, and then I'll do some pen testing videos, and then I'll do some DevOps videos, and then some network engineering videos. Um, I kind of just go with like whatever is kind of interesting me at the moment, and then try and break it down in ways where maybe people who aren't necessarily as familiar with those topics, it's digestible in some type of way. And then a lot of the stuff that I like to do is like lab walkthroughs, because I think that a lot of the times that it's one thing to have somebody just like say stuff to you, or just read stuff off a PowerPoint or something like that. But I think when you actually see somebody go through and explain why they're doing certain configurations, and then you can kind of see the end-to-end process of doing different types of tasks, I think that just kind of makes things click a little bit more. And that's kind of the way that I like to approach a lot of the different videos that I do.
And let's say let's do a role play. Let's say I'm this
Okay.
little rat that's like 3 years back, and that
Mhm.
wants to really, that has a fire inside of him, and that
Sure.
wants to get started on YouTube. Do you think they should?
Um, Most definitely. I think, but the thing is, you have to do it for yourself, right? That has to be the initial desire and reason behind it. Because if you are just going to do it because you're hoping to get something out of it. The process of going through every week, making solid content, slowly, getting the views, building things up over time. It's really, I don't know, it can be a lot of work. And so if your driving force behind that isn't something that's kind of intrinsic and internal to yourself, I don't know that it's necessarily, the juice might not be worth the squeeze, right? So if that's not the case though, and you're like, hey, I want to do this because I really just love sharing information with people, or I really want to learn about content creation. I really want to learn about how to make videos. Or maybe you're like, I think that if I am learning new topics by me documenting it in videos, it's going to kind of have some level of accountability for myself to follow through on certain things. I think those are all, really, really good reasons to go ahead and do that. And for myself, all of those different reasons at some point have come into play for why I made certain content or like making different types of content.
Yeah, definitely. And you won't know until you try, of course. That's also a big point of mine. Like, if you don't shoot, you always miss anyway. And
Most definitely.
when I first started out, and I still do that, I still just record. I don't edit anything. I don't do anything special. I have this one small recording room and that's it.
Yep.
You don't have to have anything special. Take your freaking iPhone and go to the park and record a video.
Sure. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, so that definitely was something that like kind of has been a lesson for me along the way. Initially, I was doing a lot more pre-recorded things and then editing, and I enjoy some aspect of that, but that also is an awful lot of work compared to just doing a live stream and you're just done with it. So at this point, I would say probably 75% of my videos are live streams. And I like to keep it that way. The only time that I really find that I end up actually producing a video is if it is a lab that I know that there's a lot of downtime in between steps, right? So if it's something that I know, like, hey, okay, I'm going to hit these commands, and once this does whatever it's going to do, it's going to take 15 minutes for it to do that, then I obviously don't want to just be wasting people's time, sitting on a live stream with me. I mean, we can talk about stuff, which is totally cool, but if there's going to be multiple steps within whatever this lab process is that I'm going through that's going to require these different breaks of stuff, then hey, I'll just film that myself and then I'll edit and cut it and make it all look nice and stuff like that. But for the most part, at this point, I've totally embraced the live stream mantra, I guess, just because it's a lot easier to hop on. It's nice to have like the interaction with people who have questions as you're doing stuff as you go through it as well. So I think that there's definitely some value with that too, because there's, in my mind, what I think the purpose of whatever the video is and the educational value that it provides. But sometimes people might have questions that I might not be thinking about. So when that's the case and they're able to throw those in, then it kind of helps expand the conversation and brings a little bit more value to the content, I think.
definitely. And like, people shouldn't underestimate it either, because like it's a grind. I don't know about you, but I literally worked a shit ton, and my work used to be 8 hours of day job, 2 hours of playing with my kid, and then 8 hours of working for myself. And if I was lucky, I would get 6 hours of sleep, but usually it will be more like 4 or 5. And that's not healthy either. Like,
no, it's not sustainable at all.
No, absolutely. I have fibromyalgia. It's a pain condition. If you don't know, like, I have constant unexplainable pains in all of my body, chronic pain, and it's make me unable to sleep. But it also helps me produce more content, of course, because like what I do is I create labs. I don't know if you create them as well. I've heard you talk about labs.
Yep.
Like, you know how hard it is to create a lab that is only hackable in a way that you want it to be hackable.
Sure.
And
Yep.
also the videos, like you say, so I can't have time to edit. It's just record a video, go. But when you've created a lab, you can definitely create a video about it. You can create a Twitter post about it. You can keep reminding people, hey, there's labs, because you get new followers. These
Yep.
are all tips that you can employ. And it's people don't get annoyed if you say, hey, there's labs every now and again,
Right.
because sometimes you might say that somebody's not in the mood to do your labs, and they might
Right.
forget about it. And next time
Yep.
they see it, they're like, thank you. And
It's interesting because for me, and it's probably the same thing for you, especially when you were starting off. Um, all the feedback I get on the content is all excellent feedback. Like, it's very positive. But it's interesting to see, like, at what points things kind of like start to take off a little bit. And it definitely, as a content creator, it can be frustrating when stuff that you think is really good or should take off doesn't. And then sometimes stuff that, like, maybe it's not your A game, maybe it's your B game. Something that maybe in your mind you're like, yeah, I did it, and it's an okay video or whatever, and that will be the one that people really gravitate to. So that's kind of been interesting, and something that you kind of need to adjust to as a content creator. And then also sometimes it's just the random act of algorithms as far as what actually ends up becoming visible to different people on different social media platforms. And it's kind of just at the whim of luck, as far as certain people seeing it at certain times. They think that that's a good idea, or a good video, or they like the thumbnail and they like or share it, and then that can have a cascading impact to where your content ends up being seen by a lot more people on that day. And it's really just random happenstance, right? Like, the quality of the things that you're putting out is the same. It's good content, but you just never know when the wind might be blowing the right way for you that day. So it's kind of interesting.
definitely, totally agree with you on that. Like, to a degree. But what I would like to add to that is that what goes viral can be looked at a certain angle as well. Like, be yourself. That's something, like, if you're an empty face that just reads off a script, then you're not gonna go viral often. Like,
Sure.
that's one thing I can say, is add value as well.
Mhm.
Add value with every video, but don't waste time on huge projects in the beginning, because every single project is equally likely to fail, no matter how much time you put into it, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours or 50. Every
Yep.
single one of those is equally likely to fail. And in the beginning, you need to first feel the field, like, okay, these types of videos do well. And
Yep.
then you can start putting in more time in the bigger projects.
Hmm.
Another one is, for me at least, you need to add clickbait, but you need to deliver on that clickbait. Like,
Sure.
how forgot password can steal your account. That you can lose your account. Yeah, I explained literally 5 ways where you can lose your account by forgot password functionality.
Right.
It's useful for hunters, for pen testers sometimes, so those kind of things is what I could say. And you can manipulate the algorithm to a degree, but you don't want to go viral, is my opinion.
Mm.
Because going viral means that you have to make every other video go equally viral, or you won't be as satisfied with the results.
Mm.
Like, if one of your videos suddenly gets 1 million views and the other ones get 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, for
Right.
me, and 1,000 views is impressive. Most of my videos get
Right.
800, 900 views. When they
Yep.
break 1,000, I'm like, whoa, thank you. I like that.
Exactly. Yep.
But if one of my videos got 1 million views all of a sudden, I'd be like, oh, right, 1,000 is not that much.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to being centered in your reason for why you're doing what you're doing. when it comes to content creation and specifically YouTube, right? So if your reasons are coming from inside, from positive, a positive purpose, then you appreciate the million views, but that doesn't change your reason why you're doing it.
Definitely. And if your goal is to get a single view per video, then it's easy to achieve that goal, and you should definitely go for it and set yourself realistic goals as well. And
Yep.
know that like it's a grind, but once you get up there, you go like from plateau to plateau. That's how it works. Like you suddenly make a jump, you stay on a plateau for a while, you make another jump. And at least if you keep being consistent and keep being good and keep following the trends as well, like do A/B testing, it might take a little bit longer, but that is why you sometimes see the same video with a different title and a different thumbnail. You might
Right.
be thinking, hey, the content creator's trying to trick me here. I've already seen this video, but they're just testing which of these is better, which title, which
Right.
thumbnail. That's what we often do, at least what I do often.
Well,
So,
and you kind of mentioned this before too. Just because that individual saw that video, that doesn't mean that other people have seen the original video.
oh yeah,
So
like
there's always that aspect of the new video, you might be adding a little bit new flavor to it. You might have, some other perspectives that you can add to it. Maybe the other video you did was like a year ago. Also, like at that point, if you're consistently doing content, you should have gotten better at doing the content. So your video that you do on one topic a year ago compared to your video that you do on that topic a year later, hopefully that one a year later is more concise. You're hitting points a lot better. It should just hopefully end up being a better video.
yeah, and let's be fucking realistic here. If you're watching a YouTube video and you watch another video a year later that talks about the same topic, you're not gonna remember that first video. Like
Sure.
YouTube video. If it was a class, that would be a different story, and you would be applying that knowledge every single day. Okay, that's
Right.
the story, but like you have to make sure that if you want to hit the viral algorithm thing a little bit, you have to make content that people can watch while they chill. People come to YouTube to chill as well. They come to YouTube to learn, but that's more from the search results. While
Sure.
with on the browse functionality, then I'm sitting back in my chair and I'm looking for something to chill on, not
Yep.
something to learn on.
Yep.
So that's one thing. And another thing is make a free course. Even if you just make a video course only and you make it like a 1 hour long video on YouTube,
Yep.
it's a different format. It's a different structure to a normal instructional video, in my opinion.
Sure.
Course has some instructions of, hey, go here for some exercises. Now go this. A course is a structured learning path. Like you go from A to B, but how do you get there? And that's, I think it's a beautiful thing, and that it might seem like I'm promoting people to go sell courses left and right. You don't have to sell it, like you don't have to sell anything, but just make it free. There's nothing stopping you from doing that.
Yep. I completely agree. I think there's a lot of value that people can provide. And a lot of times people will go, I mean, I hear this a lot with a lot of the different topics that I talk about, and that people say that I explain really well, is that everybody learns in different ways and not everybody teaches in different ways. So sometimes people just aren't able to find an explanation of a topic that resonates with them in a way where it just makes sense to them. So that's why I mean, I think it's great. Anybody who might be able to, have an understanding of something and putting out some type of content that breaks things down in a different way or a unique way, definitely has a potential of helping other people who might not have found a resource that made learning a topic more understandable.
Definitely, and your resource might not go mainstream until 2 or 3 years from now. Like
Sure.
you might put it out now, it might take a few years to go a little bit more mainstream, but that's normal. That's how this stuff works. My videos, if I put them out, they don't go viral immediately. My bug bounty guide has 14,000 views now, one of my most viewed videos.
Hmm.
That's because it's been out for 2 years.
Right.
It's my version 2. Like, guys, version 3 is out. I don't know if you guys know that, but
Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
like definitely. And write as well. Write down what you're doing and make it into something that's available for people. Like,
sure.
don't
I mean, so
feel
I enjoy the YouTube content creation. I also, the other thing that I really enjoy is making infographics.
oh,
Um,
that's cool.
so like I have a lot of those that I do. Um, and I just use Canva. I don't know if you use Canva or you've heard of Canva, but it's I also use it to make my thumbnails for my YouTube videos. Super easy. And I just think infographics is a great way to kind of get some really, really concise points, group them together, use some type of visual representation to kind of make things kind of click a little bit more. So I like doing that a lot. And then normally anything that I make a YouTube video on, I normally also write a blog post and embed the YouTube video into that as well.
That's what I do. Well, I try to do it for a lot of the topics as well.
It is hard to keep up with it. I
That,
won't lie. I definitely,
and the thing is,
I
like,
like to think I have like maybe 65 or 70% success rate on that.
yeah, and like I put a video out every day, at least one video, and that's way too much to write a blog on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't get any other work done. But it's important to make your, like, for example, my notes.
Hmm.
A while ago, I published them on my blog, my complete notebook.
Hmm.
Well, and that's important because the way I structure my notes, it's like in high school, if you didn't understand, you would go look at other people's notes and share notes with each other. At least that's what I did. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what I want to promote as well. Like, guys, cooperate. I don't know
Right.
what your opinion is on that.
Yep. Oh, most definitely. I mean, I think both from a technical perspective, but then also just from a community perspective, we're all part of the tech community. We're all part of or a lot of us are part of the cybersecurity community. And so collaboration and supporting each other and stuff like that is very important for the health of all of that and the success of all of that. Um, it's not that large of a community, honestly. I mean, a lot of people know a lot of other people. It's pretty small. So, your integrity and your skills and the grace that you have that you show towards other people um, goes a long way. And, that's just the way that I try to approach dealing and interacting with folks when it comes to that type of stuff.
Sorry, I was muted there.
No, no, you're good.
Definitely agree with you on that one. I think we're very much online, and I think we have very similar thoughts on these types of topics. Like, I think community is one of the most important things that we have, and I keep saying this, but I am built on the backs of my supporters. These people are
Mhm.
carrying me all the way to the finish line.
Mm.
Like, that's why I do these kind of things. Like, these are my notes. I have my notes here.
Yep.
You can go and visit them. It's like my complete course notes as well. If you want to see them, you can just go. And I am a very big proponent of free information.
Yep.
Like, and this stuff is all on my courses. But in
Yep.
my courses, you get the videos as well. You get the
Sure.
quizzes. You get
Yep.
more of the guided experience. Here, it's more of the self-learning experience.
Right.
Like, it it has to be a mix of different things. You have to be,
Yep.
I don't know, do you have a blog as well, probably, right? This is also just on JBCSec.
Yep. If you go to jbcsec .com/insights. Yep. And then if you scroll down, Then, so I got my company's Twitter feed up there. I got my YouTube stuff. And then if you keep scrolling down, then you can kind of see my blog stuff here. So there's a,
awesome. Sorry, quickly plugging in my computer if I can find it. There we go. That's awesome.
yep. And so that's the easiest way to go back and search through different blog stuff is through there. And then should have like, yeah, my YouTube stuff as well. Yep. So, oh, the Ccmp labs are pretty cool. So I've been doing those. So this is like labs that I build out and then do walkthrough videos. So if you click into the OSPF folder there, and then you can click into any of those labs is fine. And you see what I do if you scroll down. I have a diagram that then has a bunch of different tasks. And then up above is a folder that has base configs for you to put on your devices to like get the lab into a state where everything is connected, just physically connected and IP'd correctly. And then there's another folder that has a final configs, which is all of the different configs necessary to complete all of the different tasks that go there. And then following along with that, then what I do is I live stream that and walk through all of the different tasks and challenges and the configurations.
Yeah, this is, I got my CCNA and this is something I don't miss at all.
I mean, it's my first love. I mean, I've always loved networking. I did my CCNA back in 2006 and then got my CCMP in, what was it, 2007, I think. And then I had that, I took the CCIE written a couple times, and then kind of just stopped with the Cisco certifications, just because career-wise, I really didn't need to keep them up or anything. But networking has always been my favorite thing. And I always go back to that, even though I do all the cybersecurity stuff and InfoSec stuff and blue team stuff. Networking will always be like my favorite thing.
Is packet tracer still a thing?
Oh, most definitely. In fact, if you go to my YouTube page real quick, there's youtube.com and then the C and then whatever, and then cyberinsight. Or it should actually, they should have a link on the homepage of if you go to insights, or you're right there, you could click on it. Yep.
Sorry, where is it?
Oh, right there on the page that you're on, up at the top. Insights is right there. Yep. Click on that.
I'm not blind.
You're good. And then scroll down here and YouTube. And if you just click on any of those, then you'll end up getting over actually like.
Now that we have our commerce platform in the room.
And then if you go and actually click on the little icon for JBC for Cyberinsight down there and go to playlists and scroll down to, I should have one for Network Plus breakdowns and labs, the full playlist right there. All of the videos in there pretty much are using packet tracer.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I don't
know. Packet tracer is still definitely a thing. For most of the CCNA level stuff, you can still get away with using it. Once you start to actually do like CCMP level stuff and you get into like more advanced routing protocol stuff and maybe some security configurations and stuff like that, you're going to need to use some type of actual real lab or some type of simulator. So I use the CML, Cisco CML, their what is it? Cisco Modeling Lab, I think is what it's called. And so that is in essence, a VM that allows you to run the virtualized instances of most of their different types of hardware. So I just run that on my computer. I can build out different types of labs. really you're just limited by your RAM and your CPU. So you can pretty much do anything, and then you also can connect it to like your real network and stuff like that. Actually route traffic through it, and yeah, you do a lot of pretty cool stuff with that.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah. So, but for anybody who's actually like getting into networking and is looking at like the Network Plus or CCNA, I definitely would point them towards Packet Tracer. I mean, super easy. You download it on your computer. It doesn't cost anything. You can do most of the stuff that you need to do. Another cool thing with the CML, so that's $200, but the DevNet folks at Cisco, which is kind of like their developer DevOps stuff, has a version of it that you can log in for testing purposes that's free, and you can use it whenever you want. So you actually could use this for free. The only thing is whatever you do in there doesn't persist. So you're only able to use it for like, I don't remember what it is, 2 or 4 hours at a time. You could go in, do everything you want to do, but you aren't going to be able to like save the lab that you're working on. So there is a little bit of a trade-off there, but man, there is so much free and greater opportunity for learning this stuff than like when I was coming up. Because when I was coming up, it was like you pretty much had to like buy hardware, which is
Yeah.
crazy, right?
And
And you can see behind me, I actually do have like some stuff in a rack back there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not to sound like an old person, but like the amount of resources that are available now to test and learn and practice on is just awesome. Like I think it's really great. It limits the barrier to entry for folks who are actually like really interested in getting into tech or cybersecurity. I mean, you can, you download Ubuntu on whatever computer you have, you throw it in some type of virtualization software, whatever you want to use, right? And then you use Ubuntu, test some stuff with Kali, download an IDE, practice some Python scripting, download Packet Tracer, do that. You could get Nessus and use Nessus Essentials to learn about vulnerability management. I mean, like pretty much anything you can think of at this point, there's some avenue or path to be able to get hands-on experience with it. So I don't know. I think that's pretty exciting.
yeah, and it doesn't have to be free, all of it either, because like in a sense that it costs them money to build it as well. It's a very proper tool. If you look at it, it's definitely something that you can invest in if you want to further your career. And
yeah, most definitely.
That's something that they aim at as well, mostly as the career people as well, people who want to use it to better themselves in their field.
Yep.
And I've experienced this as well. Like all of my labs are free. I have over 150 labs built.
Man.
I'm gonna start making some of them paid, and I'm not gonna charge a lot, like $1.99 a month.
Yep.
And they're gonna be proper labs with video walkthroughs, with written walkthroughs, instead of just the labs that I have now. But
Yep.
it's like these things cost time to make as well, and it might be just an hour per day or something like that, because it doesn't cost me that much time. But that's
Right.
still 150 hours.
Right.
That's 150
Yeah.
labs. So yeah,
I mean, they're definitely there's a balance to strike when you're trying to do things to support the community and help foster, knowledge sharing and things like that. But then also recognize your value in your skill set and the time and effort that you put into things. So doing things like that, doing variable pricing models, I think is good. If there's some type of licensing that you can do to companies versus individual users, then I think that that's another good avenue to go. The student who doesn't have any money, I feel, much more willing to help them out with something versus the company that I know has a budget to pay for things. I'm much more willing to charge what I think whatever the thing is that I have is worth to a company or organization.
Yeah, exactly. So after this interview, I can expect an invoice, right?
No, man, this is all free.
No,
All
just
free.
kidding, of course. Yeah, thanks a lot for doing this. I really appreciate
Of
it.
course.
And like maybe one last question.
Sure.
You had to pick between never touching a computer again or only working with Windows Vista from now on. Which one would you pick?
I mean,
Computers aren't that great anyway, right?
yeah, could I use like a could I use a terminal server? Could I
No,
could I have or like a KVM? Can I use a KVM or is that off as
no,
well?
not even WSL.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess
just, and
I would deal with it, I guess, and I would continue and use
you
Vista, I
you
guess.
have to use it on a 1 GB system with
Oh, now you're changing the deal here.
no, just kidding. I really appreciate your time, my friend. I'm gonna let you
Yeah,
go.
of course, of course.
I'm
Thanks for
gonna
having me on. It's always fun.
Thanks everybody for watching and tuning in as well. And we will see you in the next one. And we will have to do this again. It's already 2:30 a.m. for me, so I'm gonna go to bed. Bye bye,
Sounds good.
my friends. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one.